This just in, Dan Lanning's bag now talks like Dora. He got paid, right? 6-year deal, $11 million a year. That's a $2 million raise for our guy Dan Lanning. Puts him in the top 5 highest paid coaches in the sport. He deserves it. Now, some people might be saying, wait a second. Dan Lanning's getting a raise after last season and also in a year now where there wasn't a bunch of people coming after Dan Lanning to try to take him to their program. We'll talk about that. We'll address that. Make sure you are subscribed. Oregon fans, we appreciate you being dialed in. Have had a lot of y'all get subscribed. If you haven't yet, no time like the present. Your head coach just got, like I said, he got a nice little chunk of change, and it's well-deserved. Let's start with that, though. Some people are going to say, why is Dan Lanning getting paid? Nobody was coming after him this past offseason. I would remind you, the year before, A&M, he shuts that down. I don't know if that was actually anything that was real, but he just says, I'm not taking the A&M job. Alabama doesn't allow that to have any legs either when that job becomes available when Nick Saban retires. And the reason why I think this was a good move by Oregon is how many times have you been the bridesmaid, not the bride? How many times have you been what people would label a stepping stone job? And this is not to knock Oregon. This is just like the track record. Mario Cristobal does well at Oregon, goes to Miami. And now that was, obviously home for him, so it's hard to blame the guy, but that's what happened. Willie Taggart leaves for Florida State. Chip Kelly before them leaves for the NFL. There was this almost perception around the Oregon job of, hey, you can have success there, but once you have success, you'll have a chance to take a quote-unquote bigger job. Y'all, for Oregon to say we're not even going to entertain that idea of that happening, we're going to make sure we put up a freaking moat around Dan Lanning financially so nobody can come take him. More power to Dan Lanning, more power to Oregon. I think this is a tremendous move. Also, I think it's worth noting that Dan Lanning has been committed to Oregon. Even outside of the strategy of this, I just like that Oregon made a point to take care of someone who's doing a good job. That's what good companies do, right? Have some good faith. Did you need to pay Dan Lanning an extra $2 million? Not necessarily. Does it probably make him and his family feel valued and even have that much more loyalty to Oregon than they did before? Have to believe that plays a factor. And I also appreciate that Oregon did this before they've reached the mountaintop. And this is my most tired talking point around Dan Lanning, but I think it's factual. I think it's relevant, so we'll revisit it one more time. I truly believe that it's a matter of when, not if, he wins a national title at Oregon. I really feel that way. Oregon has the resources. He's proven he's one of the best head coaches in the sport. Now he's getting paid like it. The guy's 35-6 in 3 years. They've only gotten better since he's gotten that job. The roster's only gotten better as well, so he knows what he's doing there. Of those 6 losses, 5 of them, I miscounted. 5 of those losses have come to a head coach that has played for or won a national title. DeBoer 3 times. He made the national title game with Washington 2 years ago, and then Kirby Smart and Ryan Day both obviously have national titles to their name. So when you look at who he's losing to, it's not like Oregon is just way off the map here in terms of competing for a national championship. The season they just had this past year in itself should be proof of that. So while Oregon looks smart here by making sure they lock up the top coach or their top coach in college football, I suppose, one of the top coaches in the sport, I think Dan Lanning every single day, too, with how Oregon continues to support him from a resource level and how they continue to crush it on that side of things, portal and at the high school recruiting level, he keeps on looking more intelligent by staying at Oregon. And so I think when you look at the future under Oregon and why I feel so strongly about Dan Lanning and his projected success from where we're standing, the most common denominator for success in college football is your head coach, right? Players turn over every year now, it seems like, but more often than not, you have the same roster for a couple of seasons at a time. Head coaches are going to have different staffs underneath them, but Saban did it for 17 years at Bama. Kirby, the success he had at Georgia. I think Ryan Day at Ohio State is going to be another case study here. When you have a top guy in the sport, you make sure that he can't leave. And so this, to me, makes me feel really good about Oregon and where they stand in relation to prioritizing their football program. Because several years ago, Oregon was always this cool Nike school that did more with less. But when you go and make your head coach one of the top 5 highest paid guys in the sport, and you are chosen to be the school he stays at over in A&M, over in Alabama, and over whoever else is working in the shadows to try and keep Dan Lanning away from Oregon, that's big time. That's a big time move, not even to mention the resources they're putting forward on the NIL side of things. So to put it simply, Oregon's serious about ball, and when you're serious about your football program, I think it's a matter of time before those serious moves you make, like re-signing a Dan Lanning, extending him, and like you are committing to adding talent, I think it's a matter of time before that pays dividends. So, let me know what you think about this one. Dan Lanning getting paid. We think he deserves it. Great chess move by the powers that be at Oregon, and I think they will look back on this move very fondly here in the not-too-distant future as to the success they'll have under Dan Lanning. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. We'll keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.